Today is 21 April 2025. It's very late night. It's past midnight. So technically it's 22 April 2025. So what happened yesterday? Yesterday, that is 21st of April 2025, we had a very big news in the global context, the death of Pope Francis. Now this event has eschatological implications, and I have touched upon this subject briefly in the past, and I'll be delving a little deeper in today's session. So, let me share the screen so that you can follow through more easily. I hope you can see my screen now. I have labeled this topic as the death of Pope Francis, prophecy of the popes, and eschatological implications. What does this have to do with Pope Francis? I mean, we heard the news of his death, but how is the topic sort of connected together? So you can see on the screen a Wikipedia page dedicated to Pope Francis, and this news is readily available elsewhere as well. Papacy began the 13th of March 2013. Papacy ended on the 21st of April 2025 with his death. You can see on the screen. Born 17 December 1936, died 21 April 2025, aged 88 years. How is it all connected? It is all connected with what we'll discuss next, something called the prophecy of the popes. The prophecy of the popes is a prophecy by Saint Malachi. I'll show this page as well, Saint Malachi, but let's jump back to the previous page. Now, in terms of eschatology, what significance this news has is not an easy topic to discuss. It's extremely difficult. And why I am saying it's extremely difficult is for a number of reasons. Now, eschatology itself is immensely complex to sort of decode, decipher, interpret. So we can have multiple branches the way you decide to look at eschatology itself. I mean, we can have Islamic eschatology, we can have Christian eschatology, or Jewish eschatology, Hindu eschatology, and the like. So, for example, you know that I have spoken about Islamic eschatology in details in the past, in many lectures. Islamic eschatology itself is complex because most of the discussions are not derived from the primary text, that is the Quran. It is derived from secondary sources, mainly the Hadith literature. Fine, I mean, there are certain hints when it relates to Islamic eschatology, Akhiruz Zaman, or the analysis of Akhiruz Zaman. That's fine. There are certain hints, but there is no detailed discussions on the same which can be directly interpreted from the Quran. Right? If we are to look at Christian eschatology, then we can derive certain things from the Bible. Okay, fine. But there can be secondary sources, and this prophecy that we are referring to by Saint Malachi happens to be one such. So there is no legitimacy attributed to it by the church itself, by the Christians themselves, by the Catholic Church. though he happened to be a Catholic and he was beatified. He was declared to be a saint later, Saint Malachy. Let's go back to Saint Malachy before we continue this discussion. So, Saint Malachy was born, as you can see, 1094. So, roughly 1,000 years back, a little less than that, 900 plus years, right? And he died on 1148. And I mean, these dates you need to remember, because when we discuss about this text of his, that's going to be important. So, in his work, he lists 112, the names of 112 popes, and he names them from this date you can see on the screen, right? This date, 1143, right? 1143 to 1144, who is referred to as Celestine II. I mean, there were popes before him, but his work started with Celestine II. Okay, fine, that's fine. Lucius II, the second pope on his list, and Eugene III, the third pope on this list. What I'm saying is, 1148 he passed away. So if we consider, okay, his work was written towards the end of his life, even then it cannot go beyond the third pope from the first one on this list, Celestine II. That is sort of understandable. So from the fourth pope onwards, it's difficult. I'll go back and forth a few times to substantiate my claim. So, as I said, so Anastasius the Fourth, 1153 onwards, and he passed away 1148. Remember that date. And later on, okay, so his work basically is in the form of certain Latin texts. Uh, we call it motto, and you can see on the screen the text as well as the translation. Fine, that's fine. So you have the Latin text, the Latin motto in gray, and then you have the motto number one and the motto translation in the English language. And he lists what is widely considered to be a list of 112 popes. So, a long time back, I mean, once certain things happen, then it's very easy for someone to say that, okay, I had predicted that and predicted this a long time back without having a proof on the same, isn't it? So, before we go forward with this topic, I want to highlight a lecture of mine, and you can have access to that lecture. This one I'm talking about, Prophecy of the Popes, right? And this was delivered 10 years ago. So, the YouTube timestamp is there, right? And this used to be my YouTube channel. It was under my organizational name, Dawa Islamic Research Organization. So, anyway, that's just to substantiate that I had spoken about this topic way back. Obviously, I'll elaborate and go into little more depth today. That's what I intend to do. So, this is a list of 112 popes as it is generally considered. So, let's scroll down. It's a long list. Okay, you can see something over here. I'll explain that part as well. I mean, with respect to this 1590 to present, right? I'll talk about that as well. Okay, so we are closing in to that number 112. So I'll explain one more thing before we proceed. So for every Latin motto, there is this number and there is this English translation and the name of the Pope and the period, I mean, from and to dates, and the birth name of the person who became the Pope, and why this prophecy maps to the Pope, right? So, those explanations and the coat of arms, all these are listed. So, I mean, let's look over here. This one, this one, yeah, this one. 110, John Paul II, Pope John Paul II. I mean, this is the era during which I was born, so before that, I will not be able to relate. But even then, this, I mean, there are numerous videos or, I mean, articles. You can search it on the net, and even there are books and articles which are published. So all that's good. Why the Latin, uh, the way it is, the motto is mentioned, and the English translation, how it sort of makes sense, all those descriptions also, you will find literature on that topic as well. Okay, after John Paul II, it was Benedict the 16th, and you can see the number as well, 111. So far, so good. But then suddenly you will see that there is something written in Latin, there is no number attributed to that, and there is something written in Latin again, and the number 112 being attributed to this. This has been a contention of researchers, interpreters, of how it is to be understood, interpreted, right? So when Pope Francis became the Pope in 2013, it was generally sort of stated by interpreters, researchers, mostly Christians, Catholics specifically, that okay, this is about a single prophecy. This relates to a single pope. This two-part motto does not, I mean, is not in relation to two different popes. So that is why you have 113 mottos, but 112 popes is what is generally considered. And if you read the English for ease of understanding, in the final persecution of the Holy Roman Church, there will sit Peter the Roman, who will pasture his sheep in many tribulations. And when these things are finished, the city of seven hills, that is Rome, will be destroyed, and the dreadful judge will judge his people. The end. Okay, so beyond that, he doesn't write anything. And you can probably relate to that even in the Latin finis. And you've heard the English term finish as well. Now that Pope Francis has died, how do you corroborate all of this information? It's difficult, as I said, the subject itself, eschatology itself is difficult. And then you have Christian eschatology, which is not directly linked to the Bible. And so the overtones are there and it's open to interpretation. And it's not something new that I'm speaking, but something which has been a matter of debate among scholars, researchers, right? So there was this, what should I say, uh, an attempt to force fit Pope Francis to this name, Petrus Romanus, right? That's how it would be, I mean, pronounced in Latin, if I'm not too mistaken, Petrus Romanus, Peter the Roman. But they were finding it difficult to fit, and they had their ways and means to do that. You can look up tons of information on the internet, otherwise, also. I'm not making this up. But it was, I mean, by some stretch of imagination, right? Now, after Pope Francis has passed away and the apocalypse per se has not begun, then people are having a relook at the same subject. And now, who are the contenders for the next pope? You have a list: Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, Philippines; Cardinal Pietro Parolin from Italy; Cardinal Peter Turkson from Ghana; and Cardinal Matteo Zuppi from Italy. I pronounce the names in English, what an English speaker would do, and not from the regional, I mean, pronunciations. Of this list of four cardinals being potential candidates for papacy, the next pope, look at the second name, Cardinal Pietro Parolin. That is probably how it would be pronounced in Italian. This seems to be the closest match if he becomes the next pope. Otherwise, what happens? I'll speak about that as well. But he seems to be the strongest contender to become the next pope. Cardinal Pietro Parolin from Italy, or Cardinal Pietro Parolin, right? Peter the Roman. Interesting, interesting observation, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But if that were to happen, what seems to be the most, I mean, what should I say, the most probable continuation in that line of papacy, then this number doesn't match. We'll have to agree that the gap then, that motto, that Latin motto, does not represent any pope as such per se, but it's a gap, and that gap has not been mentioned. But the next one will be Peter the Roman, right? After the pope is announced, I'll probably need to have a follow-up lecture, but I'm just giving you possible scenarios and possible interpretations. Why possible interpretations, and why are we even interested in this subject, is because this is open to interpretation. This is not biblical prophecy. That's what we need to understand. So that's not core, agreed upon Christian or Catholic prophecy. It would also happen that that blank, unnumbered row could be filling multiple popes before the 112th one comes, right? That could happen as well. I had said 10 years back the time is close, and I stand by that statement. The time is indeed close. So, in these sort of eras, 10 years is nothing. 100 years, certainly, yes. So, these are not in that scale or that degree. These are lesser number of years. The time is certainly close, but how we need to reinterpret that is again an open discussion now. Okay, so I've explained the background, the context. So about Saint Malachi, I think you can study. No need to go into much more depth. He was beatified. He was declared a saint, and some people, this number, I'll talk about this number as well, because this one, you can see this list being divided into two parts. This one, right? So pre-publication popes and anti-popes, 1143 to 1590. This one, pre-publication popes and anti-popes, 1143 to 1590. And then the list continues, and then the list is broken, and then again we have the second list. It's a continuous list, by the way. It's a continuous list, by the way. Post-publication popes, 1592 to present. What does it all mean? Well, it means that this text, I'll just directly scroll up. this text, right? This text, this one, this text. So, so there are those who consider it to be forgery, hence unreliable. But but even then, this was published in 1595, right? 1595. It was first discovered in 1539 or thereabouts. I could be wrong about the dates, but not by much. Okay. So that could have been forged till 1595 latest, but not beyond that. But even beyond that, it seems to be true, which is very surprising indeed. And why would there be a reason? I mean, there was a text from a person whom the Christians, the Catholics considered reliable, and then the text was there in the library of the Vatican, and it got lost, I mean, not looked into, and then it was rediscovered around that time we are talking about, 1539, 15, and then eventually it got published in 1590, 95, whatever. But post that also, it seems to sort of agree the prophecies matching with the popes who have come even after that. There would be a problem, though, that if this were to be considered a forgery, the entire world of Christianity, it would become a little problematic because the earliest manuscripts that they have, the Christians have, is this one, Codex Vaticanus. I mean, Codex Vaticanus would be the Latin pronunciation, Codex Vaticanus or whatever would be the English translation and the pronunciation, Codex Vaticanus. And even this dates back to 1209, not prior to that, right? And this is also rediscovered around the same time. In that same time that this was found, I mean, Prophecy of the Popes, that document was found, that work was found from the Vatican Library, the same time this was rediscovered as well. This, what I'm saying is the earliest manuscript that the Christians have of the Bible. So if that is unreliable, this renders, I mean, this is rendered unreliable, and then there is a problem. Okay. So as I said, I mean, I had spoken about this. This was the channel which I have lost control over, but the videos are there. It's still accessible, but I have lost control, so I can't post on this channel anymore. So I'll probably post on this channel, which I had to open. This channel is in my name, Shaykh Shoaib Mohammed, which is okay. But this I started initially to post only in the English language, and I decided to start a channel in Bangla, Hindi, Urdu separately, and this was the channel. And it so happened that the people um in the Bangla language specifically, I mean, this channel grew faster, 956 subscribers compared to this one, 140. And this one was long time back, 533 subscribers over here. I also had a Hindi Urdu channel separately. I mean, we have not put in much work over there. The number of videos in Hindi Urdu are limited, and this channel is also, in terms of subscriber base, is lesser, 30. Anyway, that's besides the point. The point is, the whole analysis or reanalysis has become required, and there are different angles to look at it. It's become very interesting. It's become very interesting. It's opened up again for discussion by analysts, researchers, right? Christians, Catholics, others who are interested in eschatology and the like, right? So this was the prophecy of the popes. So at this point of time, I don't think I have anything else to state or share with you. As and when the time comes, I'll do if required. as I had done 10 years back. If I mean, whenever the new pope is announced, we'll have a look at it. We'll reassess the thing. And what is happening over here? What is happening over here? What essentially is happening over here is this interesting gap that is causing so much, I mean, confusion also, not just with me, with the Christians themselves, with the Catholics themselves. St. Malachi, according to them, being reliable, then this gap, and then how they fit, because they were thinking that the apocalyptic events would unfold during Pope Francis's time, but it didn't happen that way. So that's it then. I'll probably have a short address. I mean, whatever I wanted to share through the screen, I've done. So let's have that address. Okay, so what's at stake over here? Nothing. Let the Christians, the Catholics, figure out what's happening with this thing. Okay, so on a more serious note, we, and those of you who've been listening to me, uh, my lecture especially related to, I mean, eschatology, Islamic eschatology, Akhiruz Zaman, the analysis of Akhiruz Zaman, know that what I've been speaking has turned out to be true. And hence, I mean, this proves itself, right? But the point is, we don't throw away anything just as the others have a tendency to. So we give everything a fair consideration. I mean, I understand that on one part, this prophecy of the popes is not something rooted in the Bible, and hence not considered authentic even by the Christians, the Catholics themselves. And there has been this debate. I try to make sense through my this session basically. Well, when I shared the screen, so that it was easy for you to follow along what I was saying. So, I mean, we base our analysis on Islamic eschatology. And I understand, I mean, when we deal with that subject, uh, there is this hint in the Quran, but the analysis is from the Hadith literature. We consider Hadith literature to be authentic as well. I mean, unlike this Saint Malachi thing, it's not from Jesus alayhi salam. It's not from Isa alayhi salam. But Hadith literature is from Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, I deliberately refrain from using the term Prophet Muhammad because this is prophecy of the popes. The prophet does prophecy. No, not like that. I mean, let's talk about the Arabic term Nabi. Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So anyone who makes a prophecy is a prophet in that sense. And then there are issues. Okay, so this subject is as it stands. Just one more thing. Uh, the way he was named, Jorge Mario Bergoglio, right? Or in English, you would say George Mario Bergoglio. Anyway, so that name doesn't fit in, that description doesn't fit in, and so they had to stretch. And now he has died. So now there is the scope to reinterpret, and we have done that probably before even they have come up with their sort of interpretations. So it happened, and we have brought this out to you. I mean, that's it. It's a interesting field. Eschatology itself is a very interesting field. We primarily base our analysis on Islamic eschatology, primarily on the Quran and Hadith, and we do not reject uh, other eschatological, what should I say, sources just for the sake of rejecting. We give everything a fair consideration, and that's what we have done today as well. So that's it. We'll catch up with you on more interesting topics as we always do. And you'll probably get to hear from this, my perspective, in some of the other languages that I speak in Bangla, Hindi, Urdu. So we'll have to wait for that a little bit more. Most sort of conversant in English language. So I put out this analysis in English first. See you then in the future as well.